Have you ever wondered what truly happens the moment the soul leaves the body? Not in the way religion or popular culture explains it, not the harps and halos, nor the fiery pits of torment, but the deep mystical journey described by the ancient seers, the hidden adepts, the ones who walked between worlds and returned to tell the tale. Across thousands of years, whispered between the marble halls of secret schools and inscribed in cryptic symbols on temple walls, humanity has carried a sacred understanding of death, not as an end, but as a doorway. A veil pulled aside, a return to a reality more real than the one we now cling to. The body may crumble, the senses may fade, but the soul embarks on a voyage so profound, so intricate, that few can even grasp its beginning, let alone its destination. Imagine a river, vast and shimmering, stretching into a horizon you cannot see. Each soul, upon shedding its earthly form, steps into this river. Some glide effortlessly, carried by unseen currents. Others struggle against invisible tides, drawn back by the weights of their unfinished desires, regrets, or ignorance. This is the timeless teaching hidden within the ancient wisdom traditions, a teaching that offers not only a map of the afterlife, but also a mirror to how we live right now. Today, we will journey through the secret corridors of ancient mysticism and uncover what truly happens to the soul after death. We will explore the sacred teachings of the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Hindus, and the mystic sages who knew that death is not the end, but a metamorphosis, one that can either liberate or entrap, depending on the life lived and the consciousness carried forward. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you are about to hear has been hidden from the masses for centuries. Yet it is your birthright to remember it. The ancient mystics left us the keys. Today, we pick them up once more. Since the dawn of civilization, humanity has gazed into the unknown and asked the inevitable question: what happens when we die? But unlike the modern world's fragmented answers, the ancient mystics spoke with certainty, as if they were recalling a journey they had already taken many times before. In ancient Egypt, death was not feared, but prepared for with almost sacred precision. The Egyptians believed that the soul, or Ba, embarked on an intricate journey through the Duat, the unseen world of the afterlife. Here, the soul would confront trials, traverse mysterious landscapes, and ultimately stand before Osiris, the god of resurrection. In the famous weighing of the heart ceremony, the heart of the deceased was balanced against the feather of Ma'at, the cosmic principle of truth and harmony. A heart heavy with guilt would be devoured by Amit, the devourer of souls, erasing the spirit from existence. But a heart in balance would pass through the gates of Aru, the field of reeds, a paradise of endless life. Across the ancient world, echoes of this belief appear in different forms. The Greeks spoke of the river Lethe, whose waters washed away the memories of the dead, forcing souls to reincarnate without remembrance. Yet the initiated few, those who practiced the secret Eleusinian mysteries, were taught ways to avoid the forgetfulness of Lethe and instead drink from the waters of Mnemosyne, memory, thus retaining their soul's hard-won wisdom between lives. Plato, in his dialogues, described the soul's ascent or descent based on the life it had lived, hinting that the universe itself was a vast mechanism of learning and purification. The Vedic traditions of India held an even more intricate vision. According to Hinduism, death is merely a transition between lifetimes governed by the law of karma, the unseen ledger of all actions and intentions. The Upanishads, ancient texts written in whispers of transcendental insight, speak of two distinct paths for the soul: the path of smoke, leading to rebirth, and the path of flame, leading to liberation. To the soul still ensnared by desires and attachments, death was not an escape, but another round on the wheel of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. But for the enlightened few, those who awakened to the true self beyond illusion, death was but a shedding of the final illusion, a reunion with the infinite. Mystic traditions across the globe, from the shamanic rites of indigenous cultures to the secret teachings of Kabbalah, tell remarkably similar stories. Death is a passage, a test, a great revealing. It is not death itself that is fearful, but our ignorance of it. The soul, if unprepared, may wander lost, trapped in astral realms, weighed down by its own unresolved desires. Yet if guided by wisdom, it can ascend beyond the veils of illusion, reuniting with the source from which it came. The ancients did not view life and death as separate events, but as two sides of a single, sacred spiral. Life was the preparation for death, and death was the awakening to a greater life. To understand death, therefore, was to understand life itself. And so, with the foundations laid by these ancient visionaries, we are ready to dive deeper, to unravel what truly happens to the soul after it steps through the final door. When the final breath leaves the body and the heart beats no more, a subtle and magnificent process begins, one that ancient mystics described with a clarity that defies our modern confusion. The soul, no longer tethered to the dense physical shell, rises into the etheric realms, but it does not soar immediately to paradise, nor is it thrown into chaos without order. Instead, the journey is governed by an ancient law, an unseen architecture of spiritual unfolding. The first stage is what many mystics called the unveiling. In this moment, the soul experiences a profound clarity. It is as if a veil is lifted from its inner vision. Time and space collapse into a single fluid panorama, and the soul perceives the entirety of its life, not from the narrow lens of personal ego, but from the expanded view of pure consciousness. Every thought, every intention, every action is seen in its true impact, not just upon oneself, but upon the intricate web of life. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes this passage in vivid detail. It speaks of the soul encountering dazzling, overwhelming lights and forms. Those unprepared are terrified and retreat from the pure lights, choosing instead the dimmer, more familiar illusions. But those who have trained their minds in life recognize these lights as emanations of their own true nature, the raw brilliance of consciousness itself. In this stage, there is no external judge. The soul is both the witness and the judgment. Like a mirror, reality reflects back the energy we carried within us. Guilt, love, fear, compassion, all are laid bare. The ancient mystics taught that this review is not meant to punish, but to teach. It is a sacred opportunity for the soul to truly know itself without the distortions of earthly life. After the unveiling, the soul enters the second phase, the pull of desire. Here, the accumulated tendencies, the sum total of our attachments, fears, loves, and obsessions, begin to exert a magnetic pull. In Hindu teachings, this is the subtle force of samskaras, the imprints left on the soul by its experiences. These imprints act like seeds, each seeking the soil it needs to grow again. Thus, the soul is naturally drawn toward realms or states that match its inner vibration. A soul heavily burdened by material desires, anger, or unresolved pain may find itself wandering through dense, shadowy realms, what some traditions have called the lower astral planes. These are not places of eternal damnation, but temporary reflections of the soul's unresolved inner world. On the other hand, a soul radiant with compassion, wisdom, and clarity ascends into higher realms of light, into the so-called summerland of the spirit world, or even beyond, into formless bliss. Mystical Christianity hints at this in its early teachings about purgatory, not as a place of torture, but of purification, where the soul is cleansed of the weights it cannot carry into the higher spheres. Similarly, the Egyptian Book of the Dead portrays the journey through various gates and guardians, each representing a trial of purification and mastery. All of this happens not because of external punishment or reward, but because the soul naturally gravitates toward that which resonates with its true essence. As the Hermetic axiom teaches, as within, so without. This is the beginning of the great sorting, the soul beginning to find its true home after shedding the illusions of mortal life. But this is only half of the mystery. What happens next, beyond the pull of desire, reveals even greater secrets about the destiny of the soul. Once the soul has been drawn to the realm that matches its inner vibration, a new and even more profound phase begins. What the ancient mystics called the journey of assimilation. In these realms, whether of light or shadow, the soul begins to absorb and integrate the lessons of its previous life. It is not a passive existence, nor is it an endless wandering. Instead, each soul engages in a process of deep reflection, healing, and preparation. The environments themselves, the landscapes, the beings encountered, the very quality of light and sound, are not separate from the soul, but are projections of its own consciousness, woven from the deepest threads of memory, desire, and spiritual need. The Sufi mystics spoke of this as entering the barzakh, the isthmus between the worlds, where souls are neither fully alive nor fully gone, but journeying inwardly through their own states. In these realms, time is not measured by clocks, but by the unfolding of inner realizations. A moment can seem like centuries, and centuries can pass like a fleeting dream, depending on the depth of the soul's awakening. The deeper teachings reveal that the soul is gently but inevitably drawn toward the light of origin, the source from which all life emerges. Yet many souls are not ready to merge completely back into that ineffable light. The soul must first shed the last vestiges of ego, attachment, and fear. Here, a great choice arises. In some traditions, it is described as standing before a great river or a dazzling threshold. Crossing it would mean dissolving into pure spirit, losing all sense of individuality, merging with the all. Some souls, feeling the lingering pull of experience, choose instead to reincarnate, seeking another journey through the world of form to complete unfinished lessons. Others, having exhausted all personal desires, surrender joyfully into the ocean of being. This decision is not made with words or logical thought. It happens through resonance, like a drop of water returning to the sea when its unique vibration matches that of the infinite. The ancient Hermeticists taught that most souls require many cycles, lifetimes across different worlds and dimensions, before they are refined enough to make the final return. The Emerald Tablet itself hints at this when it speaks of ascending from earth to heaven and again descending to earth. But there are also rare souls, those who, through profound inner work across many incarnations, achieve full realization. They become the twice-born, the liberated beings who no longer need to return, but who may choose to do so out of pure compassion, becoming guides and teachers for others still traveling the wheel of life and death. In some esoteric traditions, these are known as the bodhisattvas, the silent watchers, the ascended masters. Souls who, standing at the gates of eternity, turn back to assist those still struggling through the labyrinth of existence. Thus, death is not an end, nor a punishment, nor even a simple rest. It is a continuation of the soul's eternal dance, a movement through realms of thought, feeling, and spirit, drawn ever closer to the silent, blazing center of all things. What the ancient mystics understood, and what modern minds have largely forgotten, is that life and death are but two phases of one great journey. The body dies, the personality dissolves, but the soul, like a traveler returning from a long voyage, carries back the wisdom, the scars, and the songs of its adventures across the stars. Now that we have uncovered the ancient vision of the soul's journey after death, you might be wondering, how does this knowledge actually help us while we are still alive? The answer, the mystics would say, is everything. Understanding the soul's voyage beyond the physical teaches us how to live with greater clarity, purpose, and freedom. If life is preparation for a much grander journey, then every thought we entertain, every emotion we harbor, and every action we take is like a seed planted in the vast garden of our future existence. The ancient teachings suggest that we should live with death always before our eyes, not as a morbid fear, but as a luminous reminder. Death, when understood rightly, is the ultimate advisor. It reminds us of what truly matters and strips away the illusions we often cling to. One of the simplest, yet most profound practices recommended by the sages is daily reflection. Each night before sleep, sit quietly and review your day, not with judgment, but with gentle honesty. Ask yourself, did I act from love or fear today? Did I align with the highest within me? Or did I drift into forgetfulness? This habit, though small, begins to awaken the soul to its deeper nature. Another practice is the cultivation of non-attachment. Remember, it is not the possessions or achievements we carry beyond death, but the qualities of our soul, our compassion, our courage, our wisdom. Start by gently loosening your grip on things you know are temporary. Appreciate them, use them wisely, but do not let them define you. In doing so, you begin to free yourself while still alive, making the final transition smoother and more luminous. Meditation, too, becomes a powerful bridge. By regularly withdrawing our attention from the external world and diving into the silence within, we begin to familiarize ourselves with the states of consciousness we will encounter after death. The mystics likened deep meditation to a kind of small death, a rehearsal for the great passage to come. Lastly, the practice of conscious living. Living as if every moment matters, as if every soul you meet is part of your own unfolding story, creates a vibration of love and wisdom that not only shapes this life, but the worlds to come. The truth is, no one escapes the journey beyond the body. But those who live with awareness, compassion, and courage will find that the so-called unknown is not a terrifying abyss, but a homecoming. A return to a place more familiar than any earthly city. The more we align ourselves now with the eternal, the more graceful, radiant, and powerful our passage will be. And perhaps, just perhaps, when our time comes, we will walk through the veils not as strangers trembling in the dark, but as children returning to the arms of the infinite. What if death is not the end, but a mirror, reflecting back to us the true essence of how we lived? What if every moment we spend in kindness, in wisdom, in courage, is a thread woven into a luminous garment that will clothe us beyond this life? The ancient mystics did not fear death. They revered it. They prepared for it with the same devotion an artist gives to a masterpiece. To them, death was not a collapse, but a transformation, a shedding of the shell so the inner brilliance could finally shine without limit. Today, we explored their profound vision, the soul's separation, its journey through luminous and shadowy realms, and the ultimate reunification with the Source. We learned that life itself is the alchemy, the great work of preparing the soul for its eternal voyage. And we discovered simple but powerful practices that can help us align more deeply with this sacred purpose while we are still breathing. The path of the mystic is not about escaping life. It is about living it fully, with such presence and awareness that even death becomes just another doorway to greater life. As you go about your day, carry this thought with you. Every breath, every choice, every heartbeat is part of an eternal journey. You are not just living, you are preparing to soar. And remember, the mysteries are never far. They live within you, waiting to be awakened by your courage, your love, and your longing for the truth. If you found something today that stirred your heart, that called you to deeper reflection, then this journey has already begun for you. I invite you to reflect, to practice, and to explore even more. If you wish to walk further into the mysteries with us, subscribe to the channel, share your reflections in the comments, and stay tuned for more ancient wisdom made alive once again. Until then, remember, you are a soul clothed in stardust, destined to dance among the stars once more.